Do you want to cosplay Tanjiro? Or maybe you just want your own Demon Slayer box prop? Well, my friend, if that is the case, then this video is totally for you. Hello everyone, I'm Kimmy, and today we will be building the box from Demon Slayer. So I love the Demon Slayer anime, and I actually finished watching it a few weeks ago, and not the day after, I was at work when I saw this dude wearing Tanjiro's Bomb earrings. This caught my attention because I love it when people wear tasteful merch from shows I can recognize. Anyway, this is how I met the Tanjiro cosplayer who I'm building the box for. So I'll start off by listing all the materials I used. They'll also be in the description below if you want to take a closer look. We have large foam flooring sheets, an actual box, duct tape to reinforce that box, black Velcro, black felt, lots of hot glue,
thin craft foam, 2mm to be exact, Elmers Glue,
Okay, so I sped that up because I thought it took a little bit too long, so I'm just going to finish up here. So some extra things I used were nails, electrical tape, and printouts of the metal pieces found on the front of the box. For tools, I used a Dremel Tool, a hot glue gun, a heat gun, and a mask to protect from all the dust that comes from using the Dremel Tool. I would recommend not skipping that. It's really important for your health. That stuff is just not good to breathe in. I would also recommend getting a vacuum cleaner and hooking it up to the Dremel Tool or nearby the Dremel Tool so you could collect all the little black dust that comes off of the foam when you shave it. Here you can see I sketched out the front and the side of the box so I could really understand all the details that I was aiming to recreate. I also printed out some anime photos of the box so I could compare my work with the official artwork. So one of the best ways to build a box is to use a box. At least start out with one so that you already have the structure down. Here you can see that I have an old Amazon box that I briefly used to spray paint some stuff in. It was originally too big, so I cut about 1/4 of it off and then moved it inwards. I also made it this size for two reasons. Number one, I'm assuming that this box can actually fit a toddler quite comfortably. And number two, so that the cosplayer can fit a few posters, some merch, and maybe even a jacket in here. Here we will be starting on the exterior of the box. You can see that we have sheets of foam flooring, which is perfect for this project. This foam is about 0.5 inches thick, and here I'm using a yardstick to measure out those 3 planks on the side of the box. I would not worry too much about getting them perfectly straight. Like, obviously you want them to be straight, but this is like an antique box that I'm recreating, so I'm not 100% worried about like getting it, like paper straight. It's good, I think, that the planks of wood have a little bit of character to them. I like how it looks. I think it makes it look more realistic. Later on, we're also going to be sanding down the edges and then giving it like more detail and whatnot, so like don't kill yourself over making it too straight, but try your best. So here I'm just measuring out the same thing but for the back and the front of the box. These are just like single planks of wood. They're not like a bunch of planks of wood put together. Oh, and so satisfying, look at that, bam. So next I heat sealed the craft foam. Craft foam has a ton of little bubbles and tiny imperfections on the surface, and this makes it softer and like nicer to touch, I guess. And although we are going to be using Elmer's glue later on, I do like to hit it with a heat gun to get rid of those tiny little imperfections to make it smoother first. I think it just helps with the outcome. So here you can see I also printed out a picture of Nezuko's box. Obviously, it's really nice to have like some photos to go back and forth with, especially if you don't want to draw out like a plan for the actual box like I did. And yeah, so here you can see I'm basically just figuring out where the lines go, what looks more natural, and I'm starting to Dremel. So the Dremel I'm using is a Dremel Stylo, and I would definitely recommend it if you're a cosplayer who works with foam. It's pretty affordable and it makes it really easy to do specific designs, unlike a normal giant Dremel, which is hard to hold and hard to maneuver. I have used the normal larger one before for some projects and it was much less intricate. I'm also using a small sanding drum attachment. For this project in particular, I went between a 12mm sander and a 9mm sander. However, after using both, I would recommend using a 9mm if you can. Another note, sanding takes a bit of practice, so I'd recommend getting the hang of it before you start on your project. And don't forget to sand all the edges down. This part almost killed me. I'm not lying when I said that. Like, oh my god, it took forever. But it was worth it. Now it's time to work on the front of the box. So the major change I made to this box as compared to the anime is that I decided to skip on the hinges. I did actually end up buying some hinges for this project, but after doing a test run, I was a little bit more concerned about the integrity of the EVA foam holding together over time, and I was worried that the screws would eventually fall out. To counter this while dealing with the short time frame I was in, I decided simply to make the cover a solid removable piece that the cosplayer could lift on and off with the help of Velcro. For the time being, I cut two 1-inch wide, long strips of craft foam, and very carefully I hot glued them vertically to the front of the box. Then I set it aside for later. To start with the interior, I covered the edges of the cardboard box with craft foam as tightly as I could. I used a heat gun to help bend it over the sides and lots of hot glue to secure it. Now it's time to make the interior of the box nice and soft. I picked up about 2 yards of some black felt and then I measured some of it to fit the sides of the box. I used chalk to mark the areas where I should cut, and then I cut it. Originally, I decided to sew the pieces of the felt using a bright red thread to give it an interesting flair. But unfortunately, only one of the pieces ended up working out this way since my sewing machine decided to stop working halfway through, so I simply glued the rest. After I made the inside of the box nice and soft, I cut a piece of cardboard out for the door, and then I glued felt to one side of it as well. So I have some bad news. I didn't get a chance to film the priming process specifically for the planks of wood since my camera ran out of power, so I'll do my best to quickly describe how I did it. So to start, I used a relatively bristly brush. The bristles in the brush allowed for streaks to appear in the primer. For a primer, I used diluted Elmers Glue. Here is an old video of me priming another prop, and you can see how the brush I was using caused some streaks to appear. Normally, streaks on a prop are something to avoid. However, because I'm making wooden planks, the streaks actually worked in my favor, imitating the grain of the wood. I brushed the Elmer's glue vertically onto the EVA foam, much like how I'm painting this already primed plank here. The end result should give you a virtually invisible wood grain-like texture that won't appear until the darker coats of paint are brushed on. Well guys, that's going to be it for this video. Stay tuned for part 2 where we'll finish up making the box. Also, if you're interested in more Demon Slayer content, stay tuned for the making of Nezuko's muzzle. And, as always, if you like what I did here, consider clicking like and subscribing for more of the same. Till next time!